another week of Kids Church at home. We're again still juggling life as it is, and I'm outside of my usual recording spot, but I still have my candle. This time Pitch is with me right here, and we're together. So let's have some fun exploring faith and a special story this morning. Our special shout out today goes to Jonathan and to Matthew and to Xander. Thank you for taking this time and being creative with me and exploring and just experiencing life in a different way. Our story this morning is going to be about somebody who does some special listening. I wonder, have you been trying to pray lately to God? And have you been trying to listen for God's answers? Sometimes we tend to think that God is a little bit like Santa Claus, that our prayers are like wish lists that we send to God, and then we hope that God will send back the gift or the prayer that we have asked for. And then when we don't get that, we can feel really sad or disappointed, or maybe we start to doubt God. Listening for God is different. It's a different type of praying, because sometimes God's answers don't come in the way that we expect. And so we learn to pray differently. We learn to not necessarily ask for something and expect it to come like that, but we ask for something bigger, like friendship, or hope, or health, or new ways. And then we give it some time, and we listen, and we watch. And we watch for the life around us, and we look at, how has God answered my prayer? What has God sent? Where has God been? Who has God spoken through? There's lots of ways that God answers prayers, but they're very rarely the way that we think they will be answered. And so what we have to learn to do is to listen differently and to watch differently. And Samuel was a child just like us. This is Samuel Hears a Voice, based on 1 Samuel 3, verses 1 to 20. Samuel lived in a temple with Eli. Eli was old and couldn't see very well, and so Samuel was Eli's helper. And every day Samuel lit the lamps in the temple. And every day Samuel swept the floors. And every day Samuel prepared the food. Samuel learned a lot about God from Eli. Eli was a very wise person. Now one night Samuel was sleeping on his mat, when suddenly he heard a voice, "Samuel! Samuel!" Samuel got up and went to Eli's room. "Here I am, did you call me?" he asked Eli. Eli woke up. "No, I didn't call you. It must have been a dream. Go back to bed." Eli went back to bed and tried to sleep again. Soon Samuel heard the voice again, "Samuel! Samuel!" And so he went back to Eli's room, and Eli was sleeping again. And Samuel said, "Eli, here I am. I heard your call." And Eli woke up, and "Samuel, I didn't call you. Please go back to bed," he said. So Samuel went back to bed. Then Samuel heard the voice a third time, "Samuel! Samuel!" Now Samuel was worried, and he jumped out of bed and ran quickly to Eli's room. This time Eli said, "Samuel, I did not call you, but I think I know who did call you. And if you hear the voice again, say, 'Here I am, God, I'm listening. What do you want me to do?' Now Samuel, go back to bed." Samuel went back to bed, and soon, sure enough, Samuel heard the calling again, "Samuel! Samuel!" This time Samuel knew it was God, and he listened. Samuel said, "Here I am, God. I'm listening. What do you want me to do?" And God spoke to Samuel about many special things to come. And Samuel could now be God's messenger.
So I wonder, what was your favorite part of that story? Did you relate to Samuel, who kept hearing what he thought was Eli calling in the night, only to find out that actually the voice was that of God? I wonder, what is it like to listen differently? I wonder what we would hear if we tried to listen for the voice of God in a different way. How might God be talking to you this week? Maybe it's not a voice that's going to come that you can hear with your ears in the night. Maybe you'll hear God through nature. Maybe you'll hear God through a conversation you have with somebody. Maybe you'll hear God through a hug that you get. Maybe you'll hear God through something that you do for somebody else. There's all kinds of ways for us to hear God differently. So how will you listen differently? So speaking of different, I have something different to do again today. That's not a craft. I was wondering if you would come on an adventure with me. What you'll need are some boots, maybe a hat to keep your head warm, and a coat, and really good listening ears. Are you ready? Let's get dressed and we're gonna head outside together. Okay, here we go, my friends. We're heading out the back door into my backyard. It looks like Pitch might want to come with me too. He's waiting at the door very patiently. Or not so patiently. So here I am, and what I want you to do is to find a spot, maybe in your backyard, maybe in a park, and sit down for a minute. And we're gonna listen. Today is a really windy day, so I imagine that through the microphone you might hear a lot of wind. What are some other sounds that you hear as you sit quietly outside? Pause and listen. I hear a wind charm. I also hear a special wind chime that we made together in a kids' church video with some cutlery, and it's blowing in the wind in the tree where I hung it. I hear somebody else's wind chime over on the other side of me too. I hear some trees rustling behind me as they sway in the wind. I hear a car down the road. I just heard a woodpecker up behind me. Are any of these things God? I'm hearing lots of things, and I'm hearing more than I usually would hear because I'm taking time to be quiet and listening. I wonder, though, are any of these things God? Where might I find God in these sounds? I don't hear God as a voice. I don't hear God speaking words to me. But as I hear the wind through the trees, I remember stories of God. I think of God in that wind and how God surrounds the world and is everywhere, and that wind makes me think of God. As I hear the tinkling of the wind chimes, I think of God and music and beauty and creation. The sounds of nature. I can hear God in the sounds of nature. And how resilient nature is, even in this cold winter time, how there's still the sound of some birds around, and there's still nature surviving under this cold. Just like us. We are being strong in difficult times, and we will get through the winter as well. I hear God in that. So where do you hear God? What did you hear as you took time to be quiet and to listen? What did it make you think of, those sounds? What comfort, what hope could you find in those sounds? I'm going to stay out here a little longer and listen some more. I hope that you will take time this week to go and listen. Maybe try and go out once a day and for 2 minutes, just be quiet and listen. And we'll see what kind of sounds you hear and how those sounds remind you that you are not alone and God is there with you. God is all around and God is speaking to you through those sounds. Well, as you go out and listen, let's do a blessing first. May you have love in your heart to give. May you have joy in your heart to share. And may you have strength in your heart to lift others up. Until next week, see ya. Keep listening. Bye.